Welcome back, everybody. It's Talking Sports. Kip and the Legend with you on a Saturday morning. Gates are open at Birmingham Greyhound Racing. Hope you're heading out there for a big day of action. The Greyhounds will be on the track at 2 o'clock and 7:15 tonight. And the Travers Stake headlines horse racing. That's up at Saratoga. We got a special guest, Legend. They've been listening to all of our expert opinions for all these weeks. We thought we'd bring in an outside voice, one of those guys in the desert. It's Case Kiefer. He's the associate sports editor of the Las Vegas Sun and an award-winning prognosticator, handicapper, expert on all things football. Actually, he won a award last year for NFL Prognosticator of the Year. Pretty good stuff. You and I have talked to him before on radio, so we're going to have the opportunity to have him on the air here on Talking Sports. Case, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
We are excited to have you. I know you've been doing a lot of work previewing teams and conferences. You know what's important down this way, SEC action. So let's start off and talk about the teams in our state that are on everybody's mind, and one of them particularly on Legend's mind. Alabama Crimson Tide. Give us your take on the upcoming season, strengths, weaknesses, and whatever analysis that you have.
Well, of course, with Alabama, I'm looking at everything from a betting perspective, and they are the favorite going in. As always, they have the highest win total, the lowest odds for just about everything, and I think that's accurate. I mean, Alabama should be number one in any power ratings. That being said, and I will qualify this with it's Alabama, so there's a different set of expectations. I have a little more concerns than I have the last 4 or 5 years going in with Alabama. I think two of the things we see teams struggle with historically that are kind of a sign that they might have a down year is extreme turnover in the secondary and extreme turnover in the coordinator ranks, and Alabama checks both those boxes. I also, to expose my bias, I covered the Mountain West a lot 5 or 6 years ago when Mike Loxley was the coach at New Mexico, and I hope he proves me wrong, but I got to tell you, if you told me back then that guy was one day going to be the Alabama offensive coordinator, I would have given you any price and said that wasn't going to happen. Those teams were a mess, so I'm a little bit worried about how they adjust to that. Still the best team in the nation. I still think 11-1 is their most likely record, but I honestly am leaning a little bit more towards 10-2 being a possibility than 12-0, and that's the first time I could say that with Alabama in years.
Legend, how do you respond?
Wow, Casey just blowed my hair back, and it's getting kind of thin up there, brother. Well, let me ask you about the Louisville game before we jump to another team. Louisville has 3 receivers that will be future NFL players. It's a -25 game against the Cards. Saying what you just said about the secondary, do you see a possible problem in Orlando that Alabama's not anticipating with the Cards?
I don't know if I would say problem. I will say maybe the one way there could be a problem is there is some hype over Juwan Puma Pass, who's taken over for Lamar Jackson. If he turns out to be as good as some Louisville fans think he could be, maybe there will be a problem there. I will say 25 seems a little high to me. I never like betting against Alabama, so this won't be a game I'm getting involved in. I think Alabama should win comfortably, and they usually blow out this first game, as I'm sure you well know, but 25 seems like a lot. I think it could be a little closer.
Well, it's going to be interesting. So Loxley was head coach at New Mexico, and I mean, so what are you kind of basing your findings? Just observations of that team back in that era?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too harsh, but they just were so undisciplined. They really didn't seem like a team that was well coached at all. I mean, that was one of the biggest problems. Of course, they also didn't have talent there, which I know was a thing you guys were harping on earlier, so it's a whole different thing. Obviously, the infrastructure's there at Alabama. You have all kinds of great minds working with you, so maybe it won't be a problem. But, I just have a little bit of hesitation from seeing, they struggled to do anything. They had some of the worst teams of the last 10 years, so it's kind of stunning to me that now, a guy that was at the helm of that is now in such a power position at Alabama.
Well, maybe Nick's just on that redemption kick so much, he got Lane Kiffin back on the rails.
Jones.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll see what happens. Let's switch gears to Auburn. A lot of nervousness around here. What a big opener for the Tigers next Saturday against Washington unbelievably for the 3rd straight time in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and they haven't fared very well in the first 2 trips over there. This game is just huge for both teams to start the season. What are your general impressions of the Tigers coming into the season?
Oh, I absolutely love this game. I'm with you on that. I really like Auburn, too. I wish that I could be higher on them because personnel-wise, I think they're loaded. But I think it's kind of an unlucky draw for them. This schedule is just brutal, and starting with Washington. I'm a guy that's usually married to my numbers and analytics, and I have Washington about the 6th or 7th best team in the nation just from a pure numbers standpoint. But, I got to go with a little feel in there, too, and I respect Chris Peterson so much. I honestly think that Washington is the 3rd best team in the nation, and honestly, I might put Auburn 5 or 6, so I don't know who's going to win this game, but that's just kind of a sign of things to come for Auburn. They have such a tough schedule that it's hard to be too bold and pick them to win the SEC or something. They got to go to Mississippi State, to Georgia, and, of course, to Alabama. I think this could be one of Gus Malzahn's best teams and still only see, 9-3 or even 8-4.
What's your reaction to the Auburn prognosis?
Well, I'm with Case there. I kind of see 9-3, but this team has got a lot of talent, this Auburn Tiger team. And Case there, a -2.5 in Atlanta to Washington. I know a key ingredient to winning money we preach here on the show is some games you got to stay away from. Is this a game to stay away from, or would you lean one way or the other with the -2.5?
It might get me in trouble. I know there's still some threes out there too here, at least in Vegas. But I'm just so high on Washington that I don't see myself I don't see me talking myself off the ledge and taking a field goal with a team that I think is really right up there as one of the best in the nation. I mean, Washington last year was breaking in so many young guys, and they only lost 3 games, all by less than a touchdown. All those guys are back this year. That they are just absolutely loaded, and I feel like they aren't really getting the recognition they deserve. Tough trip to Atlanta. Like I said, I love Auburn too, but I think I'm probably going to end up taking the 3 with the Huskies here.
Wow. I mean, that's the game of the day. Let's face it, opening day. Can't wait. And it'll be right here on our sister station, ABC 3340. Give us your impressions of the rest of the SEC. Are you as high on Georgia's chances of repeating what they accomplished last year? And as I know Mississippi State's a team that Legend and I both have a lot of expectations for. What's your general overview of the rest of the league?
I guess Georgia, I would say, kind of the flip side of Auburn. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year, but you look at the schedule, and there's just not a lot of parts where they're going to trip up. I would be pretty stunned if anyone caught them in the SEC East. I expect to see them in the SEC championship game, and I'm right on board with you guys as far as Mississippi State. I think you look those first 5 weeks, they're going to be a favorite in every game. I absolutely love the hire of Joe Moorhead. It's a hire I wish the kind that people would make more of, a little bit outside the box thinking. I think he's going to do great things with that offense, and they have a lot coming back on defense too. So I am very high on the Mississippi version of the Bulldogs.
One of our favorite topics is LSU and Coach O, the Cookie Monster. What's your take on them coming in?
There's just so much negativity around LSU. I can never remember going into a season where literally no one is expecting anything. And, I think it's kind of a thing as a gambler or a guy that's, around sports betting. You kind of got to have a contrarian view. I've never, I think it's been 15 years or something since LSU's win total was only 7. So they only have to win 8 games this year to go over. I think they're going to be a little bit more pain than people think. I don't think they're going to threaten to win the SEC West or anything, but I wouldn't write them off just yet. I mean, we know so many years they've just been a quarterback away. One of these years they might find it. I think they're going to be tougher than maybe expected.
And I know Legend and I both would love to hear your take on LSU Miami at Jerry World. What an opener.
Yeah, great opener.
Yeah, that's another one of the biggest games I'm looking forward to in week 1. Haven't gotten around. The ACC is one of my last conferences to do, so I've only done very preliminary work on Miami, so I don't have an official bet on that game. But, like I said, I like LSU a little bit better than most people, so I guess my initial reaction would be, LSU as an underdog might be worth a look there.
Wow.
Well, I like it. I like it. What about Tennessee plus 10 against West Virginia Case?
Oh, another tough one. Probably one, like you were saying earlier, that might be better to stay away from. So I just really don't know what to expect from Tennessee. I don't think they're quite as talent deficient as some people might think. I mean, Butch Jones did recruit at a high level. I think his biggest failings, as we saw time and time again, were on game day. I think Jeremy Pruitt could be an improvement in that regard, but I think I kind of need to see it first. And West Virginia, on the other hand, I'm kind of worried about them too because they are just getting so much hype. People love Will Grier. He's one of the biggest bet guys to win the Heisman this year. They have some great receivers too, so I'm kind of taking a wait-and-see approach with both those teams.
Case, we can't thank you enough for being on the show and giving us a perspective from out west, and I know you do great work. Give us a quick plug on your fantastic columns and where people can find them every week, because if they want real breakdown and analysis, you do an incredible job.
Yeah, LasVegasSun.com, the Talking Points blog. We break down all sports betting. A little pressure going into this year. I hit the last 8 bowl games against the spread last year, so on an 8-game winning streak, just like the Northwestern Wildcats, the nation's longest right now. So check that out at LasVegasSun.com.
And tell us when those columns, because you do a separate one for college and for pro. When do they come out? When can people access those?
Yeah, well, we'll be picking every NFL game. It'll run on Thursday before the Thursday night game, and then we'll get one up before the weekend on college. You can catch them every Friday.
Okay, thanks again so much for being on. When Legend and I come back, we got some special guests in the studio, so stay with us for that.